This is Wolfman. It's an annual from 2009, I think. It's written by Aaron Jason, and it's also a part of Dark Regime. And Dark Regime was a crossover story written by Michael Brian Benson, and it was awful. Under anyone else's hands, it would have been fine, but Michael Brian Benson cannot write to save his life. I have no idea why they would put him in charge of writing a line-wide crossover that affects every single Marvel title. This cover, though, it has got a bunch of characters on it. There is Wolfman, the star of the book. There is Fantomas. And there is Captain Marbles, the real one, noh-varr. And I will say this cover, it isn't very good. But that is okay because the story is also not very good. Norman Osborn, the Green Gobbler, he is in charge of America's security network. That was kind of the idea of Dark Regime. And he wants to take control of this secret lab. It's the lab that created Wolfman, and they describe it quite well up here. It's a secret lab that uses nanotech and artificial evolution to build super soldiers for something called the Weapon Plus program. So one thing I won't fault this comic for, it has a really good bit of exposition there. And this lab, it created weapon number 1 was Captain America. Weapon 15 was Ultimaton. That was from a Van Morrison story. In fact, the whole lab is from a Van Morrison story. Weapon 10 was Wolfman. And Weapon 14 was Fantomas, also a Van Morrison character. And they've actually forgotten to show Weapon 6, I think it is, which is Snook from Daredevil Reborn Again. And Captain Marbles, the real one, noh-varr, also a Van Morrison character. Are you noticing something yet? He goes and tells Wolfman that Norman Osborn is wanting to take over this lab. So they decide to team up and go and stop him. And when they get there, what happens is Weapon 16 is like a canister of gas and it starts leaking. And Wolfman, he breathes it in, and so do these monster things. And everyone except Captain Marbles, the real one, noh-varr, they are like under mind control and they're trying to kill him. So he runs away and he hides. And then he meets Fantomas. And the idea here is clearly this is meant to be like Van Morrison. It's either a love letter to him or it's trying to emulate him. And loads of people have tried to copy him and it never works. The idea of this is, it is so stupid. Weapon 16 is a sentient religion, and that's an okay idea, but this goes about it completely the wrong way. And plus, Van Morrison had already done a similar idea with a sentient corporation in the Captain Marbles, the real one, noh-varr, in his series by Van Morrison. And it's pretty much here where you get a clue of what direction this story is heading in. Why are these two characters not affected by the gas, you're wondering? Well, Fantomas, he says, I have nanites in my brain to moderate my neocortex, rendering me physically incapable of believing in anything greater than myself. That is fine, that's in character, I guess. But then we pretty much go downhill here with Captain Marbles, the real one, noh-varr. He goes, we Kree have a mathematical equation that proves the non-existence of any deities. We learn it when we are children, about the same time we learn not to soil ourselves with excrement. I always knew atheists would someday save the world. Yeah, this is pretty much Aaron Jason. He is an atheist, and this is his story about how anyone who believes in religion is stupid. And this thing about the Kree having a mathematical equation that they teach at like childhood, well, it's a load of balls. The Kree, they have got loads of gods. The idea is that this sentient religion, it just attacks anyone with any sort of faith and they become slaves. And we continue with the same old kind of thing. Weapon 16 is spreading exponentially. If it escapes the confines of this dome, in a few hours we could have an entire planet of brain-dead religious freaks. And then Captain Marbles, the real one, Noh-varr, he's just got dots there, he's not saying anything. And Phantom Mass, he goes, "Stop it, I know what you're gonna say." Yes, this is pretty much just preaching standard atheist drivel. There is an advert for Fetish Fuel's solo series, and I am starting to really fancy Fetish Fuel. And I don't know if you get to a revenge in this series, but I'll check it out because it might be sexy. So they defeat the sentient religion with the power of atheism, and then they fight off Norman Osborn's zombie soldiers. And the art, I haven't mentioned, the art is really bad. Look at that there, that's meant to be like a dynamic team shot. Look at them, it's awful. This is just a really bad story, really bad idea, really, it's offensive, really. And at the end, Phantom Mass shrinks the secret lab down into the palm of his hand. And that is how they stopped Norman Osborn from taking control of it. Then we have got some bonuses. We've got a script page there, and there we see some art process. And that would be interesting if the art was good. And here we have got the best thing about the whole comic. We have got Marvel Handbook entry for Phantom Mass, and then a Marvel Handbook entry for Captain Marbles, the real one, Noh-varr. And these are pretty much fantastic. These are the most up-to-date profiles both these characters have received. So this is definitely worth it. I love the Marvel Handbooks. And after this, we have got an advert there for... It's meant to look like the Lost Boys poster, doesn't it? Excellent Force, New Mutants, Excellent Men Legacy. Is this crossover? No, they can't have used... Is this Negro Sha? You cannot use that word. Negro Sha, that's ridiculous. This artist is really bad though, really bad. Even worse than the artist that did the main story here. You cannot tell who half these characters are. That is obviously Thunderman. That's X-32, and you can only really tell that because she's got her claws out. That is Wolfman, you can tell because of the hair. That's Dominoes, and that is Vanquisher. But the rest, I have no fucking clue. Who the hell is this? Who's that? Who's that? And there's this bit here, right? If you look, there is a wing there, but it's a really small wing. And, it's not his because it's so small. If this is meant to be Wingman, why is his wings so small? This is really bad art. And it's got an offensive title. Then we have got this backup story, and this is actually just a reprint. This is Aaron Jason's first ever Wolfman story. And his thing is, he actually won a fan fiction contest. And this is his story that he got published. There's an advert for Dead Pills. Dead Pills joins the Excellent Men. I've got this one, and this is fake news. He doesn't actually join at all. And it might sound like the Aaron Jason story about winning a fan fiction contest. It might sound like a dream come true. But actually, after he wrote this and it was printed, he didn't write anything for Marvel for 3 or 4 years after it. And it's another story about Wolfman's faith, and he seems to be obsessed with Wolfman having faith. This is a bad comic. It's an offensive idea, really, and it's just trying far too hard to be Van Morrison. It's not good. It's got bad art. The writing could be alright, but it goes down the traditional route of just preaching about how atheism is superior. I'm not going to rip it up. I don't think it is that bad. It's just not good. Plus, it has got those handbook entries, and I really love the handbook. How much was this? $3.99. No, I can't justify 2 handbook entries for that price. I'm not rating this comic very highly. I'm only going to give it 7 thumbs up.